Public.
Dr. Levine, it's now time for the minutes. Please note that the executive session minutes on for this evening are being pulled.
Can I have a motion to adopt the minutes?
Second.
All in favor? Anyone opposed? Any abstentions?
I need to abstain from February 26th minutes.
Mr. Schick, did you get that?
Yes. Thank you.
The minutes are approved. 8 votes in favor, none opposed, with the abstention noted for the record. It is now time for the board president's comments. President of the board, Dr. Stephen Levine, your comments.
You will allow me just one moment.
Certainly, sir.
And, it's my pleasure. At the last board meeting, I did not take the opportunity to comment upon the incredible program that was offered by Mr. Isola, Mr. Dina, Ms. Thompson, and Ms. Moore concerning the new testing process that will be going into effect. Those of us who had the opportunity to be present for that presentation, I think came out of that as well informed as the parents in terms of helping to demystify what is the state's processes. The parents of this community receive training in terms of it in advance of what is going on, and that's tomorrow. The State Department, I believe it is the State Department, is first doing in service to the institutions of higher education that are training the people who will be implementing the core curriculum upon employment. This evening on the agenda is an item concerning the budget. I believe that Dr. Golden will be addressing it, as well as Mr. Sanasak. I would like to bring to the community's attention the fact that on the recommendation, strong recommendation of the county superintendent, executive superintendent, was in fact to come in with a budget in terms of a preliminary budget that is high, and that we work down from there. There are a number of things that are in abeyance where we do not have knowledge. As some of you are aware, special education is one of my areas of interest, and one of the things that has been recommended by the Department of Education in the state of New Jersey is to adopt in the preliminary budget, assume a 25% decrease in funding under IDEA, irrespective of what the state does or districts do. Under federal law, every child who's been classified must receive a free and appropriate education. And if the state does not come through in terms of the funding, and the federal government does not come through with funding to assist in that, it is an obligation of the community in which a child is being educated under the 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. When the precursor to IDEA was passed back in the mid to early 70s as 94-142, Education of All Handicapped Children's Act, one of the things that was incorporated into that was that the right to a free and appropriate education was defined as a civil right, which changes the entire playing field in terms of what states, communities can do. It is obligatory for the schools to provide a totally free, totally appropriate education to every student who has in fact been classified. That is a piece of the unknown. The preliminary budget is just that. It's a preliminary budget. The actual budget hearing and the adoption of a budget, Mr. Sanasak, I believe the date is May 7th.
Yes.
So we would invite all of the community here to hear the budget as it is really going to be proposed in terms of what we would be implementing for the 2014-2015 school year. And those constitute my comments.
Thank you, sir. The correspondence to the board after sheet will be noted for the record. It is now time for the superintendent's report. Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Enid Golden.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Dr. Levine, you took a lot of wind out of my sails. But I do want to say that...
It's only because of the surgical procedure I had this morning that precluded my fully informing you. I would like my colleagues, as well as anyone who chooses to speak during the public session, that if I proceed to put an ice pack on, it's because of the surgery, not because any of you are being a pain in my neck.
Yeah, I want to reiterate what you said. It is a tentative budget that we're asking. It's just procedure. The Department of Education or the state never changed the timelines for getting in the tentative budget. They changed the election laws and the times of the elections, but they never changed this. So we're making decisions with a lot of question marks. As you said, not only don't we know what our federal funds are, we're being told that, there's a possibility we'll only get 75% of the federal funds that we got in the past. We don't know if that's true or not. We certainly don't know our enrollment. There's just a ton of things that we went into this process not knowing. Along with that, we had to make a decision at this point as to whether or not we were going to be pessimists or we were going to be optimists. And with guidance from the county office saying, it's better to come in with something, to submit something tentative with worst case scenario than be disingenuous and come in with something that's low and then turn around in a couple of weeks and say, oh my God, we have to go up. Better to do it this way, and that's the guidance that we followed. Along with that, even since last Tuesday's Finance Committee meeting, when the Finance Committee made the recommendation to go forward with the tentative budget, Mr. Sanasak got information on something that was already we were already able to take out $600,000 from going above the cap. And I have to say that over the last 3 years, under Mr. Van Roy's leadership, as chair of the Finance Committee, I think this board should be very proud and the community should be happy that we've come in with a budget that's flat or under cap. There have been constants, there have been other members. Mr. O'Brien has been a member of those same 3 years of the Finance Committee, and they've come up with some incredible funding options for us. And I think they've done an outstanding job. Anyone who doesn't think that we appreciate that is wrong. And I'll take it one step more. I think Mr. Van Roy is about the only person that I know who has relentlessly, on his tenure on the board, it's one thing for us all to say, we have to do away with property taxes. We want to, this is the formula is wrong. What is the state doing? Mr. Van Roy has actively, he's brought me to meetings and Mr. Sanasak to meetings. He is so invested in lobbying legislators, which is something that we all should be doing. He has asked me to hold meetings where we got more people on board so that we could all go forward and maybe write letters, do a letter writing campaign. We hold meetings like that, we get about 3 people that show up. So I commend you for your persistence, Mr. Van Roy, and thank you for all that you've done
It is now time for the committee briefs.
I didn't know whether you wanted to present anything in terms of the Secretary's report.
I believe Dr. Golden made it clear there's a desire to continue to work to, I think there's a commitment on the part of administration to continue to work to reduce the impact, and we go forward this evening.
Thank you. Committee reports, Mrs. Brennan.
The Labor Committee has not met since our last board meeting. We don't have one scheduled either.
Mr. Bonjiavanni.
Education has not met since the last meeting. We do have one scheduled for this Monday, the 31st, at 4 o'clock in
before I begin, with your permission, sir, there's just two things I want to mention. One is that the workshop schedule has been produced, and our next workshop is October 28th through 30th, and the theme is looking back and leaping forward, which is quite consistent with what we want to do on the one-to-one 21st century strategy of curriculum. So kind of excited about that. This sounds like there's going to be a lot of neat attenders. So keep your calendar open for that. The second thing is I got to go, along with other board members. Mr. Bonjiavanni was there. I guess, Mr. Were you there? Yeah, you were. To Adelphia School PTA, I guess it was called the Hunger Games, to feed the hungry. And it was so much fun. In fact, it was hilarious. We watched volunteer teachers and staff, 3 groups, make fools of themselves, and the kids loved it. The place was packed, and they did various competitive things in a team atmosphere, and it was just a lot of fun. But the marvelous thing was that they collected over $7,000 in donations, and that money is going to the Howell food program. And it was pretty outstanding to see what they did. So I was so happy to be part of it.
Mr. Benoit, I don't mind my interrupting the report. I just would like to deal with, again, in terms of seeing the talents that our students have. There are performances that will be taking place at Middle School South, which I believe is tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday. There is another performance that will be done by the children at Middle School South. And Dr. Banlow informed me of the fact that she was saving the best for last, that Memorial will also have a performance. We would hope that we might be able to get some press in lineage in terms of allowing the entire community to know about the talents that reside amongst the children who are in this district, and encourage you to come out to see their performances. I'm sorry to interrupt your report.
Okay, and on the Finance Committee, we had a meeting on March 18th, and at that meeting we had 6 resolutions, 5 of which have been posted in the agenda here tonight that we will vote on, but I'll topically give you what the topics are, and then you'll see later more information. The first one was a presentation for Voice over IP, a new phone service that has been recommended, and it was impressive. It was smart in terms of a replacement strategy for what we currently have as an antiquated PBX system where we can't even get parts anymore, or if you can, it's very, very expensive. So it was a win-win situation to replace it, and the capabilities will be far, far greater than before. The second, and that was unanimously approved by the Finance Committee as a recommendation to the board. The second was our transfers. We had a big packet of transfers that we have to consider. This is a normal course of events that all school boards in New Jersey have to periodically go through as they try to balance when they receive grants versus what their expenditures are at any given time. And so they have to move funds around in the account. The bottom line is there is no change to the bottom line. It has to balance out to 0. But it's important to have fund transfers so that payments can be made for certain purchases. That was unanimously approved. The third thing was the School Development Authority and capital projects and our local share. That's on the agenda later on too. And Mr. Sanasak will discuss that. The next one was our tentative budget, which we will be discussing. That also was approved by the Finance Committee and is being submitted to the whole board to vote on tonight. The last was our goals are of the Finance Committee. First, continue a 3 to 5 year budget planning process and offer policy committee recommendations establishing a district-wide requirement for such future financial planning. We want to memorialize the process that we've now gone through for 2 years and be able to be better planners of our resources and our needs for the future. Second goal is to establish a prudent and efficient budget that supports and enables the district goals. We have to consider those, the board goals, and the new strategic plan, which is also pretty exciting, that maybe Dr. Golden will speak on later, or someone will. The third is provide additional financial reporting overviews that offer an enhanced visibility to our budget process and our expenditures and our resources, to make it more simple for the average non-financially oriented taxpayer to see what's happening on the budget. So we were pretty happy. This was also unanimously approved. The last was the minutes, and those were approved from the previous meeting of this. And our next meeting is April 1st, and that's at 5 p.m. at the Board of Administration office on 200 Squonkam, right here. No, it's 200 Squonkam Road, Yellowbrook Squonkam Road. But you're really very seriously invited to come and hear the dialogue that takes place. The next meeting will involve at least 3 interviews of 3 department groups, and they'll be telling us what their vision is and needs are for now and hopefully the next 3 to 5 years too. So it's a good process, and you're most welcome. That's it. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Welsh.
The Technology Committee met just yesterday, and we were able to get information about a couple of items relative to technology in the school district. Mr. Aquino and Mr. Sanasak reported to us that they concluded negotiations with Apple as part of the technology rollout, and were very successful in being able to negotiate a situation that will allow us to stay within arranged funding limits as we purchase these materials. Mr. DeCola of the Information Technology Department presented a plan for the district's email migration to Office 365. The changes become necessary because the current in-district system that we're using is going to basically be not supported any longer. And this solution seems to provide us not only with a mail system that meets our needs, but it provides for increased storage in terms of our other servers as well, because it's a cloud-based environment. Not sure everybody knows what that is, but we don't have to keep in-house all of our hardware and so forth. In addition to that, Mr. Aquino discussed that Office 365 would provide Microsoft Office, the software, that licensing to the district, and will upgrade our SharePoint services. So all in all, we've had some successful results with regard to our movement forward as part of the technology plan. The next meeting of the Technology Committee will be taking place on April 29th at 4 p.m. in the board office.
Thank you, Mr. Welsh. Mr. Miller.
The Facilities Committee will be meeting Monday, March 31st at 7:30 in the board office. The agenda for that has been posted on the district website. I did attend the Adelphia Hunger Games also. It was an excellent program that is being run, that was ran over there. And it's amazing how the principal in that school was able last year and this year to come up with great programs to support the Howell Food Pantry with the Hunger Games and the sleepover in the past. I also attended as the liaison of the Freehold Regional High School District State of the Schools, which was an excellent program that was run by them at Howell Town Hall. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Mr. O'Brien.
Operations met and reviewed 2 key items. One was the capability of our backbone and bandwidth to support the technology rollout. We were satisfied after hearing from Mr. Aquino that we have the capacity to grow if needs increase. The other aspect of the meeting was to review the safety task force implementation of all the program changes and to receive a report from Mr. Brosnan. Mr. Brosnan was not able to attend, but Mr. Sanasek filled in for him and gave us an update on the status of that. And we were satisfied again that we're on track to continue to make our district as safe as possible. So, thank you.
Thank you. If I can just digress from the agenda, just slightly comments from the public section. I would just personally like to welcome Barbara you back. Glad to see that your health has returned to the point that you can be present tonight. We can't say that. You can. I can say it in my work settings when I work for the nuns. Glad to hear it. Glad to see you. Mr. Sanasek?
Yes, it's now time for the first public comment. Whereas the Howell Township Board of Education determines the comments from the public will last 45 minutes, and the board determines the public comments will be conducted in accordance with its bylaw 0164.1, and individuals may be limited to 3 minutes each. The officer with respect to time and decorum will be the President of the Board, Dr. Stephen Levine. With your permission, sir, may the floor be open to receive comments.
Please do so.
The floor is open. Are the comments at this time?
Since I'm seeing some faces that have not, that I do not recall seeing before, would you please state your name and address for the record clearly so that it can be picked up on the tape? Ms. Rocchino, would you assist, please?
Nancy Donio, 79 Garden Way, Farmingdale. And I certainly hope you recognize my face. I'm going to quote a little bit from Mr. Van Noy. We're going to take a look back and then a leap forward. Looking back, I pulled out the numbers from the 2003-2004 budget. And I did that because I read in the article about Mr. Isola starting 10 years ago. I believe that was the 2003-2004 budget. Congratulations. You're who I would have picked. But I do have to say I'm a little surprised you guys did not do due diligence and put out advertisements for the position, as I think you were probably required to. So whereas I don't disagree with the final decision, I do disagree with the process. But that's not why I'm talking. 2003-2004. Your total budget was $92,051,376. You had 7,508 students, bringing your cost per student to $12,260.44. Back then, you used to be able to get your percentages by department. I can't find that information now. So when you talk about more transparency, I would love to see percentages by department, such as in 2003-2004, 1% was spent on capital outlay, 3% on funded programs, 9% on debt service, 34% on student instruction and support, 14% on special education and support, 7% on administration, 9% on operations and management, 9% on non-instructional, which is like your bus and your transportation system, and 14% on other services, which included your health insurance, your regular insurance, Social Security, and workers' comp. Leaping forward, the budget you are presenting is for $114,662,745. I understand it is a tentative budget, but just to give you perspective, that is a 24.44% increase in 11 years, with a decrease in 1,200 students. If you keep that budget, your cost per pupil will be $18,074.20. That is a 50% increase in 11 years. That on top of the fact that you had a reduction in your debt service of $1.8 million. Which, by the way, is fantastic. Kudos to Mr. Sanasak, because I know he keeps refinancing. So you have to take that $1.8 million and add that back into your general services. I can't find where your breakdown is. Can somebody tell me what your breakdown is? Because in that time, those 11 years, you have, yes, you've implemented full-day kindergarten, which is fantastic, and I know that that costs money. But at the same time, you've had a 1,200 population decrease with an expectation of another decrease of 700 kids more in the next 5 years, according to your numbers. You have closed the school and have switched it over to a utilization for community purposes, which is fantastic. However, I have not seen any parallel reduction in staffing or administration. You've decreased your debt service, as I said, by 24%, but you've increased your budget by 24%. So, back to another point made by Mr. Van Noy. Your plan, as finance, is to be better planners. And the one thing that I have continually come to meetings and have stated over those 10 years is, what's your plan for next year? So if you keep this 5.33%, which is your 2% you're allowed, plus the 2% holdback that you've been holding, what's your plan for next year? You have no holdback. You have nothing to fall back on. What happens in case of an emergency? You only can hold to a 2% unless you go to a vote. And if it goes to a vote, it will fail. Because the budgets in Howell Township don't pass. And they don't pass for a reason. I don't know about you, but in the last 11 years, I have decreased my heating costs by buying better services for my house. I have re-insulated my roof. That did cost me some upfront money, but has decreased my electric bill and my heating bill substantially. I have one child who is now in college. I am in college. I've had increases in expenses, but I have done everything to decrease where I could. Because I have to come out with this, I only have a set amount of money. I can't go to the taxpayers and say, oh, I need 5.3% more. I would love to go to my husband's boss and say, well, I really like a 5.3% raise. I can't. I can't. It's not there. I pay over $14,000 a year in property taxes. Yes, I have a nice house. I live in a great neighborhood, but the house is nice because we made it nice. I'm only on 1/3 of an acre. I don't own a lot of property. I have 2 kids and a dog and a husband. I live within my means. And every time that you put through another increase to this extent, my means keep shrinking. I have a girl, my youngest daughter is going to be a senior. She graduates next year. I will have 2 college tuitions to pay. And as you are well aware, college is not cheap. You have to live within your means. So all I'm saying is that plan. Please plan. But when you plan for the town and for the people who live here and the people who pay the taxes, not just for what the educators are telling you that they need. Howell's a great school system. Don't get me wrong. 2 kids have gone through it. It's a great school system. But you guys are outliving your means, and you have been for a number of years. A 24% increase in 11 years? Come on. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Bonnie Cerretani. I reside at 10 Clock Court in Howell. I'm going to speak about a different subject, and really what I'm here for is just to ask you to give some consideration
to a topic that I'm not sure how much awareness you have. I too have children, 4 children that have gone to the school system. My son's a senior, my daughter graduated in Penn State. He's going next year. And I have 2 little ones. I don't mind paying the tax increases. I feel like they got an amazing education. And I know it's hard to find within budget and improve things because costs go up. What I'm upset about and why I'm here is this. I don't know if anyone's familiar with this. Maybe you think it looks like a piranha, barracuda.
Could you read it? I have 3 lenses and cannot read that.
Oh, it says, I was on the yellow shell or red coral today. Please speak to me about better choices. Thanks, love you. This is a tool that's being used by my son's kindergarten teacher, which makes me very sad, having other children that have such a great experience. And it's being used to redirect their behavior. I'm an advocate of discipline. I'm an advocate of my children following the rules. I'm not an advocate of things with sharp teeth that look ferocious, that look vicious, that seem aggressive. This red fish has created a plethora of issues for my 5-year-old son. He can't sleep, he gets stomach aches, he wets the bed, he doesn't want to go to school, he doesn't want to read out loud. And most recently today, they think he has sleep apnea brought on by stress. I would like for you to standardize a practice at this redirected behavior, red light, green light, upside down, unhappy face, and give serious consideration to these type of things and allow teachers to have the liberty to express whatever type of redirected behavior that they choose to select. In my opinion, this is a poor case. I feel sorry for any new parent that's introduced to a kindergarten school system with items and symbols like this. Had I not had other children in the district, I might have felt differently about this, but because I've had such an amazing experience, I recognize this is limited to one teacher and there could be others. And I ask your consideration to paying attention and watching some type of task force to just look into the type of things they're using and the serious emotional and psychological effects that it could have on children as young as 5. That's all. Thank you so much. And if you want this, oh, by the way, my son's in more trouble because I said I was coming here with this, so he's in more trouble for not returning the fish, although his principal's been very supportive at Aldridge and is working that out.
So you have spoken with the building principal, is what I would ask you to first do, and at that point to then be in contact with Mr. Isola as our assistant superintendent for curriculum and personnel.
Yes, that's fine. I mean, I'm not going to get, there's other issues that I'm going over with him. For you, I just felt like there's so many standardized practices. This probably wasn't one you're familiar with. And I will say that everyone who sees this is horrified. I mean, no one thought this was very nice. I understand there's consequences to misbehaving. I don't know, getting bit by the scary piranha thing, I'm not so sure is a really effective way to redirect behavior. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Zig Panic. I live on 191 Asbury Road in Farmingdale. I'm here this evening to discuss my displeasure with the proposed budget of $114.8 million. What I would like to do is basically compare the municipal budget with the Freehold Regional High School in Howell Township. The township is the collector of taxes, and in turn, they're always blamed for when taxes go up. I have property in upstate New York, and how they pay the taxes, and I believe we should do the same thing in Howell Township. They pay a separate check for the municipal services, and they have a separate check that they send to the school system. This way, the taxpayer has a very good idea of who takes what part of the pie. Right now, we're looking at 16.86%, or $45 million is what's being spent right now for the municipal budget. We service 52,000 people. It's a police department, first aid, fire department. They pave roads. We fix potholes, etc. All the things that the township does. That number really is $22 million. The rest comes from surpluses, state aid, etc. Freehold Regional is very similar in what they spent of the pie too. They're at 17.64%. They service 11,600 students. They spend just about $48 million is their budget, very similar to Howell Township. Now, as far as the public schools for Howell Township that this board represents, you're spending $114.8 million. I think that to me is ridiculous. I look at the demographics that was prepared by ADS, they were your consultant on demographics. The population numbers from 07 and 08, we were at 7,062 students. Presently, we're at 6,330 students, which is a loss of 732 students. And if you look further into the next 5 years, they're projecting another loss of 717 students. That tells me we're probably going to lose 1 or 2 more schools. So I'm baffled as a regular person. If I look at these numbers, I got to say, how could you possibly spend almost $115 million for 6,330 students when the Freehold Regional has got almost twice as much as far as population, and they're spending about $48 million. If they used your model, they would be spending $250 million. Fortunately, they're not. I really think that just recently, Mr. Miller was at the Freehold Regional presentation. It was good to see him there, and I realize as a liaison, I think we should have had a few more members, probably from the administration, to come out there and take a look at it, because truthfully, they should be used as a model. I want to urge this board to stick not only to the cap, I think you should really start to look to trim that. Again, I can't see how you can't justify trimming it. Yet you want to go over 5%. It really behooves this board to not only stick to the cap, but go below it. I think we should stick to a flat tax, actually a reduction. I think, again, speaking for a lot of people, the solid majority, people that can't be here, when they look at the numbers, they just don't make any sense. I'm looking at it from a practical standpoint. So I really think that we need, this board, it sets the policy. I understand the finance, I sit on the finance board. They work hard, and I know Mr. Benoit works very hard on it, and the other board members, but we really do have to rein in that spending. We really have to be responsible to the taxpayers. I know the previous two people spoke here. $14,000 is a lot of money to spend for property tax. And the bulk of it is the school system. It isn't just Howell, it's the county schools, it's the Howell Township and the Freehold Regional. But as I've shown, the biggest piece of the pie comes from this group right here. So we really have to put a rein to that. I again want to urge the board to make that decision tonight, not to increase it, not to go beyond the cap, not to go to our bank, because that money, all the savings that we've had, that this board has struggled to do the last 2 years, in one fall swoop, we're going to lose it all. We need that bank. So stick to the 2% if you must, but please look at reduction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Pat.
Still a little bit lame, but I'm not going to give it up. Okay, Barbara Dixon, 62A Piazza Vittoria, Freehold, New Jersey. I still am the county committee woman for the villages. I represent 1,000 seniors, and I guess Surrey Downs as well, because they all call me Barbara Dixon. So, doesn't matter if Barbara was in the hospital, half-dead, Barbara fixed it. So, I keep trying. The first thing I want to talk to you about is not about the budget, I'll get to that. There's something in this district called senior gold passes. Jerry and I have two, a lot of seniors have them, which gives us free admission to all the shows. Regional, the high school. What you need to do is because anytime someone says there's a show coming, I wind up having to call the Freehold Regional District. Nobody puts it in the newspaper. Anytime, from now on, anytime your schools have a show, a presentation, I don't care what it is, make a point of taking the Howell Times that prints everything and tell them what school it is, what time, what day, and exactly what the show is going to be. Because some of us would really like to go if we knew if there even was a show. I mean, we go to the senior center and we partake in the services there, and then they help, the schools come to the senior center and we have activity. But if your schools and your kids are putting on a show that I'm sure the people in this district will be proud of and proud to see them, tell somebody about it.
Barbara, if I could just address that, and I'm not talking in terms of this year, but I know historically there was communications to the paper. Once that has occurred, it is out of this board's hands in terms of what the publishers and the editors choose to include in their papers.
We get Howell Times delivered to the villages. You all get a copy of it. You don't see anything from the district and the schools or what's in there or who's going to put on a show.
I will repeat, historically, the papers, the press, as well as other media was informed. Once that information has been sent out, we no longer have control.
Fine. I'm just, like I said, just make it a point to shake hands with them and get on a good neighbor basis with them and just make sure the community knows about it. And now I'll get to taxes. Okay? From what I understand, I've been told that, okay, you're going to go to the 2% cap, and then you're going to spend the money you have in the bank saved up from the cap that you didn't spend last year. Can you tell me about that? Because I'm getting a lot of horrified, oh my God, from the seniors.
Mr. Sanasak, I don't know whether you're in a position to address that tonight. If not, if you could make arrangements for Barbara to come in and explain that as well. And if we could then put it up onto the website in terms of the pie chart that I have recall of being presented whenever the budget has been presented.
I can tell you that most of the seniors in the villages have no idea what a computer is. More so. Barbara thinks. Okay, all I can tell you is that keep it realistic. We live on Social Security. My hospital bill was over $2 million. We paid out $29,000 last year in cold hard cash. We got it. I still owe them $5,000, but they're going to get $10 a month. I can't give them anything else. Listen, people have desperate needs in this town. The seniors live on what they live on, and there are times, and I can tell you with the villages, bills don't get paid because the money isn't there. Social Security goes just so far. But before you go on a wild spending spree, just think of who's going to get hit with this. Just keep it reasonable. That's all I'm asking. But like I say, I'm here. But I'm here on behalf of the villages and the seniors and everybody else who has to get hit with this stuff. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you need the microphone addressed to?
Not very long ago, I read the following quote regarding...
Could we have your name and address, please, first?
I said Sue Fisher, 184 Friendship Road. Not very long ago, I read the following quote regarding school funding through property tax levies. There is no empathy with the taxpayers' economic reality, no attempt to recognize our current business decline, no desire to share in a balanced solution to benefit all residents. Does anyone on the board recognize these comments? They were made by you, Mr. Van Roy, about 3 years ago. Which leaves me wondering, where is the taxpayer empathy today with the tax increase that your committee is recommending? Have you changed your mind about more money not buying a quality education? I knew what you were going to say. Dr. Golden confirmed it this evening. This is just a tentative budget. It's a requirement we have to submit to the county. The numbers can change before the final budget is approved. The That being said, it's all true, yes, but your philosophy continues to run counterintuitively. Other districts are working within the 2% cap with no plans to use their banked cap. They're choosing to be fiscally conservative and increase or decrease that number if materially warranted. As stated by Dr. Golden, we're starting high. Why can't we start low? As usual, the board inverts this reasoning with platitudes to the public that the levy might come down. I'm asking someone on this board to have the decent common sense to reduce the levy here tonight while you can. I'm asking you to refrain from using the bank cap. Just because you have the legal authority to use it doesn't mean it's in the district's best interest to do so. I'm asking you not to make a use it or lose it decision, but to consider your obligation to these struggling taxpayers. I'm the fourth person to speak tonight about the same topic. And to work to produce an austere budget that minimizes unnecessary expenses. I'm asking you to show that you still have empathy for the taxpayer and your own ability to balance quality education services with fiscal conservatism. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Ishnik Carmen, 459 Adelphia Road. I run a small business. In addition to being a taxpayer and a mom of 2 children, I run a small business in town. And I have to tell you, my enrollments go up and my enrollments go down. And with that, I have to cut costs when I need to. I'm really disappointed that you're even considering using your cap, the bank's cap. And I appeal to you, please realize that this community cannot sustain what you're asking. You're out of touch right now. I have to tell you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Colino.
Sorry, Nancy Donia, 79 Garden Way. I just have one query. Dr. Levine, can you direct either Mr. Van Noy and his committee or Mr. Sanisek to fill in these numbers for me so that I can see where the money is going anticipated? The percentages, so that I know what percentage is capital outlay, what percentage is student instruction, what percentage is administration, what percentage is other services, etc. Because you don't provide that information anymore on the website.
We can interpret that. The state budget software changed and they report it differently, but I can redo it to the old standard.
Thank you.
Could you? Thank you. I was just gonna say.
Mr. Sanisek, not seeing anyone rising to use the microphone.
The first public comment is now closed. Discussion items?
I would ask that the item concerning the budget be put on to discussion consent at the request of Mr. Miller in a conversation I had with him. Is there any other item on the agenda that any board member wishes to move to discussion? Not hearing it, can I have a motion to adopt the rest of the consent agenda?
Motion. Second.
Why are we skipping the discussion?
I'm sorry?
Why are we skipping discussion items and going into the rest of the agenda?
Because we have dealt with the discussion after the consent agenda has been passed at other meetings. If you wish it now, Mr. Miller.